Originally glimpsed in an after-credit scene in the first Avengers film 7 years ago, Thanos has been kicking around the MCU a long time. Post-Endgame, however, after experiencing both victory and defeat, it seems the Marvel movies are finally done with the Mad Titan. Or are they? We here at ScreenRant have a new theory that Thanos is very much alive after Endgame, and we haven't seen the last of him yet. Stay tuned for all the details. Death in the MCU has always been a fickle thing. Loki pulled some great fake-outs and may have weaseled out of death again in Endgame. Bucky survived the Cold War handsome as ever. And Coulson escaped death, but was dealt an even worse fate. Network TV. Ugh. All of that was supposed to change in Endgame. This was the movie where things get serious and actions have consequences. And for the most part, they did. We lost Iron Man, Black Widow, and maybe even Captain America. Even so, there was still some of that good old-fashioned MCU death dodging. Gamora was rescued from 2014, and as we mentioned, Loki did some of his trademark weaseling. But are these characters the only ones who could make a comeback? We don't think so. We've got a theory that Thanos could easily make his way back into the Marvel films down the line. Here's how it breaks down. To start off, we have to look at Infinity War. Thanos' plan, as weird as it was, intended to destroy half of all life in the universe. When he eventually succeeded, Thanos did just that. Half of everyone on Earth and across the galaxy straight up died. Right? Well, a certain rule established in the Doctor Strange universe argues otherwise. If you recall, the Ancient One was the guardian of the Time Stone in that film, which she used to see alternate futures and prevent them from occurring. The only complication was that the Ancient One could not see past a certain point, a point which turned out to be her death. The point is even touched on again in the Ancient One's scene in Endgame. In discussion with Bruce Banner, she reveals that she has no idea Thanos is coming. She's also shocked that Stephen Strange will give away the Time Stone. Even for massive, earth-shattering events, the Ancient One cannot see beyond her own demise. So it follows that the same would go for Doctor Strange himself, right? He's the new guardian of the Time Stone, so why would the rules for him be any different?
Great. Allow me to help you.
We only bring this up because of a small running thread in Infinity War and Endgame. In one of the film's most talked about scenes, Strange views all the possible outcomes of the Avengers' conflict with Thanos. Ominously, he reveals that only one of them ends in triumph. In Endgame, this line is called back to a few times. First when Iron Man asks if this is the victorious timeline, and again when Strange holds up one finger to signify that it indeed is. Either that, or he was mad at Iron Man for stepping on his foot and held up the finger that he stepped on.
I call that mercy.
Regardless, there is enough evidence here to suggest that Strange can indeed see into the future, even beyond his supposed death, meaning Strange wasn't dead at all.
What?
If it's been established that the Sorcerer Supreme can't see past their own death, then either there has been a mistake, or Strange could not really be dead when he gets dusted in Infinity War. If he was, he would not be able to see past that point in Endgame. So, with that in mind, let's take a closer look at the snap itself, and what it really did to the characters, if it didn't kill them. It's pretty clear the snap turned everyone into dust, but what are the implications of that? Well, first of all, the excess dust created by the snap creates an interesting atmospheric effect in Endgame. 4.5 billion people would create a lot of dust, and that dust would eventually accumulate in the atmosphere. For that reason, a lot of Endgame looks darker than an average Marvel film, and gets a lot brighter when the snap is reversed. That's why Ant-Man reacts to the sunlight coming through the window so strongly. He hasn't seen something that bright since he's been back in this dimension. Of course, Thanos quickly ruins this by kicking up a ton of dust, but it's nice for a few seconds. Alternately, it's also possible that the dust particles were not the cells of a person dying, but reforming. Confusing? We'll explain.
Scotty, beam me up.
We think the snap may have worked a bit like the transporters in Star Trek, or weirdly like the Wonka vision machine in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. In either case, the general idea is the same. A person, say Captain Kirk or Mike Teavee, is put into a device that deconstructs all the particles in their body. Once those particles are broken up, they're transported to a new location or a new size and reconstructed. We think the snap may have worked in the exact same way, taking the molecules that make up the character, rearranging them into dust, and reassembling them somewhere else. Where exactly? Well, we have a theory, but we'll get to that later. Beyond the bodily effects of the dust, what happened to everyone's mind and soul? And don't tell us that souls do not exist in the Marvel Universe. Not only is there a soul stone, but Black Panther touches on the idea as well. In that film, as you may remember, both T'Challa and Killmonger are able to confer with their dead in the ancestral plane. So in the MCU, there's a physical place where the souls of the dead live on. So could everyone have been sent there? Would they be ready? Is the Wakandan afterlife equipped to handle the sudden influx of colonizers? Well, despite it being proof of the existence of souls and the afterlife in the MCU, we don't think the Dusted spent 5 years in the ancestral plane. Why? Because of Spider-Man.
Okay, that didn't really make sense, but you know what I'm trying to say.
If you recall, during Endgame's Gonzo climax, Spider-Man had a lot to say to Iron Man. One thing was this: you will not believe what's been going on. Do you remember when we were in space and I got all dusty? I must have passed out because I woke up and you were gone. But Doctor Strange was there, right? And he was like, it's been 5 years. Now this might sound like a throwaway line, but it actually tells us quite a lot. Most importantly, it lets us know that Spider-Man, and by extension the rest of the Dusted, was not conscious of the 5 years time passing. This would seem to rule out the ancestral plane. T'Chaka and Njobu, spirits as they may be, are conscious beings who seem very aware of what's happening in the physical world. So it would be strange for Spider-Man to have spent years there and only perceive it as a few minutes. So where were the Dusted Souls? Well, we have a theory. A place where time does not pass the same way. The quantum realm. Think about it. Ant-Man feels the 5 years post-snap as only a few hours in the quantum realm, meaning the souls of the Dusted could easily exist there too. Furthermore, could the dust effect just be our way of perceiving every molecule of a person being shrunk to quantum size? It wouldn't surprise us. There are certainly other possibilities for where the Dusted went as well. For one, the Soul Stone seems like an obvious candidate, but doesn't fully connect for us. Why? Well, when Thanos sets off the second snap at the beginning of Endgame, he destroys the stones. If the Soul Stone was destroyed and it contained all the Dusted souls, would they not either be A, freed, or B, lost forever? If the souls of the Dusted were destroyed in this way, the Avengers would not have been able to snap them back into existence. But let's get back to our quantum realm idea.
Yeah.
Following the Star Trek Wonka logic we laid out earlier, it seems highly plausible that the Dusted could have been transported into the quantum realm. This would also explain why the resurrected Dusted appeared with their clothes and weapons intact. Even items like Bucky's metal arm and Falcon's wingsuit appear unchanged. Also, having everyone's clothes come back is good business sense. Avengers 4, half the world is naked would have to be rated R and would only make half as much money.
Not a great plan.
Refocusing, it's also entirely possible that the Dusted were transported to a physical location somewhere in space and kept in some kind of storage. We even have a theory as to where that could be. Remember the scene in Infinity War where Thanos uses the Reality Stone to trick the Guardians? That scene was set on Nowhere, the headquarters of Tannelir Tivan, aka the Collector. Thanos creates an illusion of himself fighting with Tivan, who is never seen again, but could it be possible that Thanos hired him to create a storage facility for all the Dusted souls? Either a physical space or some kind of soul supercomputer? Okay, we admit that's pretty outlandish. Getting back on track though, we understand you might wonder what this has to do with Thanos. Or, clever viewer, you've figured it out already.
What is it?
If the logic tracks that the Dusted aren't really dead and their souls are stored somewhere else, this must apply to Thanos and his army as well. If everyone was chilling in the quantum realm for the past 5 years, that's where Thanos is now, biding his time to come back and terrorize the Avengers once again. Now, we should take a second and recognize that this may not have been an intentional setup by the filmmakers. It may just be a side effect of running such a complex universe stretching over so many films. That being said, it does still mean that Thanos is alive in story and could be resurrected. After all, both Infinity War and Endgame spent much of their runtime using obscure plot points from other films. Red Skull, a character from a Phase 1 film, was brought back. The Ancient One, a one-movie character from 3 years ago, turned out to be vitally important. So who's to say the same can't be done for Thanos? And that's without even mentioning the can of worms that is opening up time travel into these films. Not only did the Avengers discover the ability to time travel, they didn't even do the responsible thing and destroy the machine afterwards. Time travel is too powerful a thing to just be hanging around, and the Avengers are leaving it pretty open for misuse. They don't even have guards at the Avengers compound. It always looks like they're the only ones there. With that in mind, any of your run-of-the-mill time-traveling villains, Kang the Conqueror for example, could go back in time and recruit any version of Thanos that he wanted. And if Thanos is indeed in the quantum realm, who's to say he couldn't be encountered in a future film, even an Ant-Man sequel? That would certainly be a surprising way to bring him back. Regardless of how exactly it happens, it would be extremely cool to see a Thanos revenge film. It could easily be billed as a Brightburn-style horror film with Thanos as a legitimately scary force. If this happens, Josh Brolin's agent owes us a soda.
Wow, what a wild trip that was.
But those are just our thoughts. Do you have a theory that could bring Thanos back? Do our theories hold water? Any other dead characters you'd like to see brought back? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to ScreenRant for more great Thanos content.